Welcome back to another Q&A video. It has been a very, very long time since I last did one. It's been over a year, in fact, so I thought a new one was long overdue, much like another video on my channel that we'll probably not talk about in this Q&A video because, God, I'm so sick of hearing it. The E-Day video will come at some point. I haven't forgotten about it. You remind me every single day, and I know you want it, and I have done preparation for it. I just haven't gotten around to getting it done. It's a very, very big undertaking. It takes a very long time to write an entire person's career over like 30 years and then gather all the clips and edit it together. It's a lot of work. And with all of this Broly stuff that's coming in at the moment, you know, it's kind of hard to take a moment to actually sit down and do it. And that was kind of the case with Dragon Ball Super that kind of got in the way of everything as far as the Super Supervisors series went. So it's not dead. It will come at some point. Oh my God, stop asking. So yeah, I asked you guys on Twitter the other day to throw questions at me. You guys sent in loads. There are so many. I couldn't answer them all, but I've picked what I thought were some of the most interesting ones that we haven't necessarily covered that much on the channel before, or maybe they were like follow-ups to things we've covered. If your question didn't get answered, I'm considering going through the Curious Cat page that I took these questions from and answering them just separately, so do keep an eye on that page if you didn't get your question answered. But without further ado, let's jump in. The first question says, how likely do you think it is for Shintani to stay as the series character designer past this new movie? I think it's very likely. If it's not him, it will be someone like him. And the reason for that is that they've said many times they wanted to use this film as an opportunity to bring the series closer to modern Toriyama. That's what they've done, and I don't think that's going to change. I think if we see anything, it will be very minor differences, but I think the general approach, the sort of looser character designs, the focus on animation and movement, I don't see that going away ever. They've been so vocal about how, you know, Dragon Ball has looked one way for a very long time. We wanted to change this. This was the perfect time for it. You know, Shintani was picked by Toriyama through an audition process. I don't think you go through all of that trouble to then throw him away and then go back to what we've had for the past 20 years. Like, I don't think that's something that's going to happen. You never know. Toei do make some very strange decisions, but I really don't see that being the case. I think if anything did change, you might possibly see Yuya Takahashi as a character designer, which would fill me with many, many complex feelings that would probably be an entire video in itself. But I guess I'll just say that while I love Takahashi, I do think what people have in mind when they say, oh, I'd love Takahashi to be the character designer, I think that doesn't really reflect reality. I think what you'd get is something very similar to the issues that we had with Yamamura's designs, in that there are only some people who can do that type of artwork. It's not very friendly to the vast majority of animators, and so what you get is this weird, watered-down version where any sort of deviation from it sticks out like a sore thumb. They're not very versatile designs. So, you know, while it would be cool if the entire series could look like Takahashi, that big 90s nostalgic Buark kind of visual, it's not really suitable for a TV series. So, I don't know. We'll see. They know he's popular, but at the same time, after all of this mad hype about how, oh, this is the new Toriyama, he's on the screen for the first time, yay! You know, I don't think they're going to change that. Moving on, have you ever read Dragon Ball Multiverse? If so, what are your thoughts on it? Oh God, yes, it's not very good. I've never seen something miss the point of Dragon Ball so much before. It's the least Toriyama feeling thing ever. It's disjointed, it's gratuitous in its violence to the point of just being edgy and embarrassing to, I think, anyone over the age of 16. It's not very good. There are some ideas in there that I think are interesting. None of it is executed very well. It's a very, very messy story. I think they have the benefit of having these little side stories, I guess, off of the main tournament that's going on in it. And some of those are okay. But on the whole, not very good. No, sorry. Do you think Shintani's designs fail to make the characters look their age? If so, how would you fix them? I have a lot of feelings about this. I think, yes, the characters do look younger. I don't think they look younger to the point that it's actually an issue. I think the character designs themselves on the sheets, on the actual character design sheets, definitely do look quite young. But when you see them in motion, what we've seen in the trailers, they look fine. They don't look that much younger than I think they have ever. So it's okay. I think the only thing that you could change to make them look a little bit older is the neck area. Shintani has the neck sort of coming off from, I guess, the edges of the jaw, whereas Dragon Ball typically has the neck sort of starting behind the ears, which I guess is more realistic. It's that kind of thing that really makes characters look younger, and I've edited stuff in the past moving the neck to where it used to be, and it makes such a big difference. So it's a very, very small detail, but on the whole, I don't think it really matters. I think there's very clearly an emphasis on cartoony slice of life stuff, which then gets very sort of serious and more mature looking as, you know, action kicks in. I think there's versatility to these designs, and I don't think you can really judge that kind of thing right now just based off of some sheets that we have. You know, they don't necessarily reflect what is on the screen in the final product. You know, we haven't seen expression sheets and stuff like that, so I think it's a bit too early to say. Maybe I'll feel differently after I see the film. I don't know. Next question. Do you plan on breaking down the rest of Super and reviewing the Universe Survival arc? I'll answer the last question first. Yes, I do want to break down the Universe Survival arc as far as its narrative goes, review it properly like I did with the Goku Black arc. I have so many thoughts about that arc. I don't think it's a secret that I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but it's not totally terrible, and it's not fantastic either. It's very... it has a lot of issues, and I'd love to spend, 20 minutes really getting into why I think it has issues and what could have been improved and what was great. I'll do it at some point, but again, much like the E-Day video, it's one of those huge undertakings that I just haven't had the time for yet. I have to go and rewatch that entire thing, and that's, over 30 episodes of content just for the tournament? Yeah, that's a lot of work, but I will definitely do it at some point, just not yet. As far as breaking down the rest of Super, it's another thing I'd like to do, and I was very passionate about doing it once Super finished. I thought, what am I going to do for content? Oh, of course, I've got all these Super episodes to do. It's very hard for me to go back to those episodes because Super drastically improved. I mean, so drastically. It was so nice to be able to break down Super week to week during that Universe Survival arc, and with few exceptions, largely not have to complain about the animation that much. When I go all the way back, going through, I did the first 5 episodes already, but going from episode 6 through to episode 64, 3, 5? I can't remember where I started, but that's a lot of episodes that do have a lot of problems. And I would have to talk about them in detail, excruciating detail, over and over and over again. And people don't like negative videos. I don't like doing negative videos. They're really, really annoying. Nobody likes to sit and focus on something that isn't very fun for an extended period of time. And while there's lots of great stuff in there, so much great stuff in there, don't get me wrong, everything kind of feels like a big compromise. And so writing these videos that are like, yes, this bit looks good, but then this doesn't because X and Y, and, this feels like a compromise. I don't know if that's content people really want to watch. I think a lot of the enjoyment people get from my videos is that a lot of them are celebrations of what they're covering, or they're deep dives into things that are largely good, and if they're not, then at least it's sort of sporadic. It's not just a wholly negative series. I don't know if people really want to dedicate themselves to something that would just largely be not very positive for episodes upon episodes at a time. So I don't know. You'll have to let me know in the comment section below. I'm not opposed to it. I just don't know if that's something I really want to commit to. Next question. What would you say is your game of the year? That's the easiest question ever. Red Dead Redemption 2. I've played so many games this year. I thought Spider-Man was spectacular. But, nothing has captured me in the way Red Dead 2 did. I think that game is something genuinely special. I've played so many open world games, and nothing has ever come close to feeling like a genuine, living, breathing country. And that's such a That's such cliched marketing terms, like, oh, it's not just a manufactured video game world, it's a living, breathing world, and if you see that thing over there, you can go to it and climb it. You know, that it lives up to all of those cliches for me. It's so pristinely crafted, it's unbelievable. Narratively, its themes are so strong, its characters are ridiculously memorable, its gameplay, yes, it can be a little clunky in places, but holy hell, it is a lot of fun. And even though a lot of the stuff that pops up during exploration isn't truly emergent gameplay, it's obviously scripted, it feels emergent. And I think that's so cool, because then even if you don't necessarily put yourself out into the wilderness to go hunting or whatever and actually create genuinely emergent scenarios, you still get that feeling and it feels alive. There are so many aspects to it that I thought were absolutely amazing. I wrote a little breakdown of it on Twitter when I finished the game. It's something absolutely unforgettable. It really blew me away. Do you think Super will return in 2019 since the manga has already got ahead of the Broly movie? I don't know if it will necessarily return in 2019. I hope it does, but I think it will 100% return. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. The earnings Toei were making, Shueisha were making, the toy companies were making with Super on the air are unbelievable. I've never seen earnings like that. It's insane. And unfortunately, they were, well, I guess not unfortunately, but realistically, they were projecting losses because Super is not on the air, and a movie is obviously not going to have the sustainability of income that a week-to-week TV series has. So, you know, companies aren't stupid. They want to earn money. It will come back. I think it will definitely cover something. It might not necessarily cover what Toyotaro is writing at the moment. That might not even be from Toriyama. Who knows? It might just be a manga filler arc. Who knows? We don't know. But, it will 100% come back. There is no doubt in my mind, whether it be 2019 or early 2020, it will be back. When animators that are employed by a specific company do work for another company, why do they use fake names? What purpose does it serve? So this is very, very similar to how voice actors work in the US. You have union voice actors and non-union voice actors, and when people who are union do non-union work, they don't want to get in trouble, and so they use a fake name. And it's kind of like that for animators over in Japan. You know, if you're contracted by a studio and you want to go do something elsewhere, you should probably use a different name or you're going to get in trouble. That's basically all it is. They're hiding from the studio police. Yeah, I mean, that's really all there is to it. Can you name an anime you're constantly recommended but have never bothered to watch a full episode of? That's got to be Symphogear. It's basically a meme on Twitter at this point. It's like, watch Symphogear, watch it. Everyone needs to watch it. And I just haven't. I don't really have that much interest in it. It doesn't seem like something that would be for me, but I've been very wrong about so many shows in the past. But yeah, Symphogear is apparently just the #1 anime that everyone needs to see. I think it's on Crunchyroll, so, you know, it's not exactly hard to come by, but I just, you know, have never bothered. I'm sure I will one day, but I have such a huge back catalogue that it's hard to sort of slip in other people's recommendations over the top of stuff that I want to watch of my own accord. Like, I'm finally getting around to watching Space Dandy after years of having it on my watch list and just never getting around to it. Space Dandy is incredible, by the way. You should 100% watch that if you have never seen it before. I'm like halfway through season 2 at the moment. The animation is unbelievable. It has an incredible dub, and it's just so good. Next question. Since you have a thing for animation, did you take GCSE art and or continued it for A-level? If not, how did this art knowledge grow? For people who aren't in the UK, GCSE and A-level are qualifications when you're younger. I think GCSE is at like 16 and A-level you do at age 18. Yeah, I did art for both GCSE and A-level. I also did photography at A-level. I've always had an interest in art. I've always drawn. You know, I've done, you know, freelance graphic design. I've done freelance photography. I've done freelance video editing. I've done, Jesus, what else? So anything art related. I mean, I did a filmmaking course. I've done so much that has to do with what I cover that, yeah, I think it's just been a natural evolution. It's always been something I've been interested in, and I finally turned it into a job. So that's cool. I mean, not that it wasn't a job before. I was still, you know, earning money from it, but it was kind of sporadic, whereas now I have a very sort of focused, this is what I talk about, this is what I cover. now I'm just going to do it. So it's a good feeling. It's good. Next question is, you've mentioned before how you really liked the Dragon Ball Kai dub. Are there any other dubs in particular that you liked or loved, whether you preferred it over the original Japanese or not? So I mentioned earlier, I really do think the Space Dandy dub is great. It definitely takes some liberties that I think are a little bit questionable, but it generally does not change anything massively as far as sort of the characters go. Funimation haven't really changed narrative in a long time, but they can quite often alter little nuances of characters that starts to build a very different picture of what a show is. They definitely don't do that with Space Dandy from what I've experienced so far. I think it's very, very strong. Ian Sinclair is just the greatest actor ever at Funimation. He's just so good. Kekai Sensen, Blood Blockade, and Battlefront, I think the English name is, that also has a phenomenal dub. That's so accurate, and its casting is almost like one-to-one as far as sort of tone goes with the Japanese. It's really impressive stuff. It's so, as someone who has some frustrations with the super dub, I mean, I'll probably talk about that a little bit later, it's amazing to see the work that Funimation does for other series. They do some really, really strong dubs. It's very good stuff. I think some of the other dubs that I kind of enjoy, Rurouni Kenshin has two different dubs. The one I'm talking about is the Media Blasters dub that came way later after Sony's troublesome Samurai X thing that was not good. I kind of like the Media Blasters one. It's very dated. It's very sort of that 90s, bebop kind of. It's good, but it's also kind of shoddily acted and kind of half put together. But I think for the most part, it has a lot of charm. It's pretty accurate, and I really like it. Other dubs, God, what else? I think Studio Ghibli, at least its modern stuff, is largely very well done. I think Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, both excellent dubs, largely in line with their Japanese counterparts. Of course, they have so many A-list actors that it's not even remotely surprising that the performances are good, but yeah, the script's largely very good. Some of the earlier stuff, not so good. Mononoke's dub is not the best. I think, some of the other early Miyazaki stuff is a little questionable, but yeah, anything modern is largely pretty good. Arrietty has two different dubs. There's like the Disney one they did with like the Wizards of Waverly Place actors. That's not great, but then God, who was it? Was it Studio Canal did a UK dub that was excellent? I think it had Saoirse Ronan in it. Maybe not. I can't remember. But anyway, the cast was significantly better. So as far as Ghibli goes, you can almost always find a very good dub there. Next question. You have a bit of a knack for cooking. Did you go to school for cooking? Did you learn from your parents, or are you self-taught? Largely self-taught, honestly. I've never done any courses on cooking. My parents aren't the greatest cooks in the world. Sorry, Mum. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where my interest came from. I watch a lot of Gordon Ramsay. I watch a lot of cooking shows, whether it be, MasterChef, Great British Menu, anything food related. I've probably watched it. I watched through, Gordon Ramsay offered like a masterclass thing you could buy. Went through that. I don't know. It's just something I've always loved to do and will continue to love to do and get better at it. I don't have the most like sophisticated palate in the world, but as far as a lot of homely, fun, meaty, hearty dishes go, yeah, I will keep going at it and improving, and I love it. I'm going to make a bolognese later today, which is going to be spectacular and probably upset Italians because I love to put a little bit of spice into it, and that's just not allowed. Speaking of Italians, the next question is, what are your thoughts on the direction overall for JOJO Part 5, VENTO AUREO so far? So I made a video before the series had really gotten underway. Only one episode had come out, and I was basically just talking about my concerns about how the direction was very different and seemed a little substandard compared to Part 4, and I wasn't sure how the new complex designs were going to affect the animation. We are like 7-8 episodes in now. Whew, I never thought I'd have to eat my words so much. I do think the direction is definitely not where it could be, but it's still pretty damn strong. I didn't have to worry about the animation at all. This is like the most animated JoJo has ever been. At the same time, we're only 8 episodes in. It will probably melt at some point. It's 39 episodes long. I'm not going to eat my words just yet, but so far, so good. I don't have anything to really complain about. I think it's very, very strong. There was that very strange dancing scene in episode 7, I think it was, which was just mental. I love that so much. It was so ridiculous, but so, so good. Next question. Could you elaborate a little more on what you said in your video? Does budget affect animation quality? Because even when I show it to people, I still can't convince them that budget isn't what matters. They say it doesn't really matter if you have good contacts because good animators are more expensive. The world is moved by money, and to have good pre-production, you need money. These always come up in discussions. Your content has been very informative. Keep up the good work. Yeah, so that video is not as really in-depth as it could have been. I basically covered it at the start of my KameyaCon panel in just way less time and way more detail. Basically, budget matters as far as the scope of your project goes, and yes, you do need to make people show up, and so money does matter to an extent. At the same time, you can't just buy time. If someone says you have to do this by this date, you can't just give them money and say, oh, well, I have to move that date. Time, you can't just conjure time out of nowhere. The analogy I always like to use is that you can pay Gordon Ramsay millions to show up in your kitchen and give him the finest ingredients in the world, spend all of that cash, but if you cannot control the time, he can only do so much. If you have only given him 5 minutes to put something together, it is not going to compare to what would happen if you gave him an hour, 2 hours, in which case you're going to get the most phenomenal dish in the world. You just can't do it. Money cannot buy time that doesn't exist, and I think that's something that a lot of people miss. So I understand the reactions that people have had, oh, but these people are expensive, how does money not matter? Money does matter, but it's not the end of everything, and you can't convince people to just show up by throwing cash at them when they're going to be more inclined to join projects from people they know. It's a very insular sort of contact-driven industry. It's not quite as black and white as I think people think it is. So yeah, it can be hard for people to wrap their heads around, but I think if you keep throwing these crazy analogies at them, they will get it eventually. Next question, how did you go from being a Call of Duty YouTuber to a respectable member of the SAKUGA community? Oh man, my YouTube story is so dumb. So I started doing Call of Duty videos in 2010, 2009, I think. Just because that's what everyone was doing at the time. That was how YouTube started to grow as far as the gaming side of things go. Call of Duty blew everything up. So I did that for a long time. And then I was young at the time. I must have been 16, 17. And I decided, I really enjoy this. I think I would quite like to get into games journalism and basically do this thing for a living. So I started shifting my content to reviews and reviewing games in very highly edited ways, kind of like my breakdowns are now. And so from that, I ended up writing for a company. I did video editing for another outlet. And I just realized very quickly that gaming is something that I think is very personal to me. And I would rather not turn it into a career, which is, it's rewarding because obviously you get paid for something you enjoy. But at the same time, you kind of have to sacrifice your enjoyment in some way because you can't. I can give you an example. I had to spoil several parts of Resident Evil 7 because I had to edit a video for a company and only one person got to play it early. It's that kind of thing that really put me off. I don't get to enjoy things that I really care about because I have to be deeply involved at every point, and I didn't like that one bit. Whereas with something like Dragon Ball, I'm such a big fan that I almost don't really care if I know things because to me it just adds to the experience. I don't feel that way with anything else. I am a massive spoiler phobe with everything else. I watch one trailer for a film and then I know nothing until I go and sit down and watch it. Some stuff I don't even watch trailers for. I don't want to know anything. I want my experience to be 100% blind, fresh, and I want the full experience as it was intended. I don't know. Dragon Ball, I'm such a huge fan of it that I'm going to enjoy whatever it is regardless on that first watch. And sure, if I start to feel differently once I sat down and analyzed it, whatever. Don't really care. But yeah, just in general, that's not how I feel. And that was one of the main reasons that I decided to move away from it. I ended up learning about animation from Kanzenshu, who had a whole animation page dedicated to Dragon Ball. And then from there, I kind of branched out, found Sakuga Boru and the Sakuga blog. And that was pretty much the beginning of the end for me as far as my transition went. And, it's just kind of grown from there. So, yeah, that's pretty much how that went. Next question, have you ever considered making a Patreon? Yes, many times. I've been thinking about alternative revenue streams for a little while now because YouTube is a little volatile. Ad rates aren't consistent. Toei come down hot on you if you dare to use even a little bit of footage. It can be difficult to make a consistent income, and that's very, very troubling. I've asked about Patreon in the past. People didn't seem that interested in it. I kind of just put it under the carpet and just ignored it for a little bit. If people are interested, let me know. The only thing I really have at the moment is a donation page, and that's pretty much it. If people want to donate, fine, but I don't really have any ideas for Patreon. I don't really have anything to offer. The only thing that it would really be is just if you want to support me with each video that I put out, by all means contribute, but I don't know what I could actually offer beyond that. Next question, is it confirmed that Broly uses Dragon Ball Super's sound effects in contrast to Dragon Ball Z's? Yes, that is true. Someone on my Discord server messaged I think it was the audio director for Super and was like, are you guys working on the new movie? And are the sound effects going to be done by the guy who did the ones for Super? And he was like, yes, that is what's happening. So anyone who was hoping that much like Battle of Gods and Resurrection F, that they were going to use the old school sound effects from Hidenori Arai, that's not happening. It is the brand new sound effects from Super, and I guess I have many feelings about that, but also it's sound effects and I really don't care that much. I think I only cared massively because I think Arai's old school sound effects do a much better job of elevating mediocre animation compared to the new guys. That was a big issue with the TV series. Now that we have a movie that looks to be absolutely insanely animated, I'm not really that fussed. Obviously, having punchier sound effects would elevate already good animation to feeling, even better, but, it's whatever. I don't really care that much. I'm not big into sound effects. Moving on, what exactly went down between the making of the Hunter x Hunter 1999 OVA versus the second Greed Island OVA? Why did all the colors change and the directing get worse? That's because all the staff changed. 1999's Hunter x Hunter is unbelievable. I'd love to make videos on it. I think it's so much better than 2011. It has some of the most phenomenal staff. I mean, the director was behind Rurouni Kenshin, and he took on Hunter x Hunter and turned it into just one of the most astonishing anime series I think I've ever seen. It had such amazing character designs, amazing animators on it. I mean, Norio Matsumoto is all over that show. It's really, really good. And then they all vanished. And many years later, they made the Greed Island OVAs under the sort of same moniker as the 1999 show, but that's pretty much all that related to it. And this is why I talk so much about how you shouldn't judge things by studio, because it's down to the staff. The studio is the same between Hunter x Hunter, the actual show, and the OVA, but the staff, completely different. And that's the bottom line, really. Last question, how long did it take you to recognize most animators on Dragon Ball? I don't really have a proper answer for this because I don't think I've ever hit a point where I've gone, you know what, yeah, I know most animators. I think you're always learning with this kind of thing. Every single time you think you know something, a bombshell will hit you, either from your own research, suddenly something clicks for you and you're like, damn, I got that wrong. Or, you see someone tweet some confirmation or something, you talk to an animator and it changes your view of things and you just learn and learn and learn and learn. Yes, I think it must have taken me probably 3-4 years to sort of get to where I am, but there's still so much that I don't know. There are people like Jin Inaba, who was on so many Super episodes, so many Heroes episodes, no idea who he is, what his work looks like, really. The only confirmed scene we have from him was totally corrected, so I have nothing to go on. There are so many cases like that, and as a result, I don't really have an answer. I don't think I'm at a point where I recognize most. And even people I think I know, there will usually be an error here and there. I mean, for example, the Broly video I just did, I made a mistake with Hisada and Kano, two very, very recognizable animators, just had a brain fart, really, and that happens a lot. You can have a sort of confirmation bias in your head that you're not aware of just based on sort of old presumptions, and that can totally warp how you see things. And as soon as someone points out your error, you're like, oh, I'm such an idiot. Of course that is not the case. And that's pretty much what animation coverage is like. You thinking you know everything, getting things very right, but then something comes along, massive curveball, changes everything, and you feel really dumb again. So yeah, I don't have an answer. You're always learning. And I think in many ways that's a good thing, because it means that nobody should feel inadequate with what they know. You know, you will always learn and learn and learn. And even the people you think are experts still don't know everything. I've messaged animators before who work on Super, asking them, hey, who do you think this is? And they'll come out with the most bizarre guess that's just entirely wrong. You know, nobody is perfect. It's very, very subjective stuff. While you can be 100% sure in things, you can also be incredibly wrong. So anyway, yeah, I've waffled on long enough. I think that hopefully answers everything so far. That was a lot of fun. I covered so many different things. I'm really tired. My voice hurts. I hate doing unscripted videos for this reason. I ramble too much, but hopefully you got some interesting info out of that. Be sure to leave some follow-up questions down below. I don't mind, you know, clarifying some things or answering some more in the YouTube comments section. If you enjoyed this, you know, be sure to rate the video, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you next time.